Wow, John.
That's his phone.
That is amazing.
He goes, hello.
That is
I have
amazing.
trouble navigating this one.
My eyes aren't good enough. I wouldn't be able to read that.
I work on
But if you're sitting close, and I like to clip it in the back of the headrest on airplanes,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
so
Technology.
Is that an Android?
everything.
You know, it's it's tough when the technology, IT guys can't even keep up with technology. I said it's pretty tough when the IT guys can't even keep up with technology.
I can keep it up. I told him what it was. He confirmed.
No, I'm saying that technology is so evolving.
Do you know what the real quick little power outage was?
I want to bet that switched over to that alternate loop because they've got like one loop coming in this way and they ran something down Bascom. I bet they lost something because the end of the street, the lights were blinking and it was just enough for like a switch over, like a physical switch over to happen.
It was funny because Hallie came over for dinner and it happened and I looked at Tony and I said, I will not do this. And she was like, it's been 2 seconds.
Yeah, it went off and I grabbed Rocco and like, we're going for a walk. And before I got out the door, it came on and I was like, too bad. And he was like, what? I know.
Leslie, if it was of any consolation, you were wrong. You knew that. But I'll just tell you that. So we can,
Thank you for acknowledging it.
my wife sent me the message and it has their logo. So.
It's really amazing how electrical distribution even works.
I am.
If you think about it, all the interconnecting.
I did mine when I
How do we
got
not
started.
all get electrocuted? That's what I want to know.
I can't
Yeah.
wrap my brain around stuff like that.
I was watching a video of this guy that found this tree that he found had a current, like an electric current. So he hooked a couple of wires up to it and it ran his lights to his business. And
How does that work?
it turns out it was like growing into like a underground power cable. Eventually the tree died. He had to start paying for electricity. All right, let's get ready to govern. All right, I'll now call to order this meeting of the City of White House Council for today, July the 11th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Ms. Hargis, will you please call the roll?
Sir, James Bonsley.
Here.
Zach Briscoe.
Here.
Georgia Harris. Here. John Chambers.
Here.
Michael Lowe.
Here.
And Heath Rosenstein. We have a quorum.
All right, please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Constable, you want to do the prayer later?
Yeah.
Okay. Starting with the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Well done. Please be seated. Oh, sorry, we are going to pray. Please stand if you're able and join Councilman Lowe as he leads us in a word of prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this yet another day. Bless our city, bless our law enforcement, fire, all our first responders. Bless the staff of this city and bless us that we will make all the right decisions to further help and advance our town. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, please be seated. It's like a Catholic service. All right, that takes us to item D, presentations. What do we have for us today, Mrs. Black?
We do not have any presentations.
All right, our presence is our presentation. That takes us to the matter of community interest, item E. Here we go.
Mayor and Council, as I'm sure you're all aware, sidewalk improvements along Highway 110 continue. The section that was not done in front of 110 Dental Goodwill was not in the plans to be replaced.
Ooh.
Really?
So we'll follow up with TxDOT and just make sure they're aware of the condition of that section of that
Yes.
sidewalk. But I did go back and look at the original plans for 2022, and that was not set to be replaced.
So I have a question related to that. At one point, we tried to get together a petition for people to sign to have that done. Is what they're doing a part of that same project?
So we didn't get it wasn't a petition, it was a easements, temporary
Yes,
construction easements
yes,
that we were
yes.
trying to get signed. Yes, that's all part of the same project.
Okay,
so.
good. I'm glad that worked. I mean, you guys put a lot of work into trying to get those together. You were looking for people that were property owners that were not here, so glad to hear that that went towards that. Good deal.
And then filing for city council election places 1, 3, and 5 begins on July 22nd, which is a Saturday, so really the 25th. It will open and continue through August 21st. And then just as a reminder, we will have our parks planning public meeting tomorrow evening beginning at 6 p.m. at 109 East Main. So we encourage everyone that's able to please attend and provide input. They have several different ways to receive that input, so we ask that everybody come out and attend that. We're excited to get that kicked off.
Yeah, sounds great. Anything else in the matter of community interest from council? All right, that takes us to public forum. We did have someone, Mr. Cameron Rose, if you could come up, please. Let me give this a quick read right quick. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.007, members of the public may speak on the agenda item for time during the public forum section of the meeting. At the time the agenda item is called for discussion by the mayor, speakers shall be given 3 minutes to speak. A speaker needing a translator and/or interpreter may be given 6 minutes to speak. Criticism of city employees or staff is prohibited. Those wishing to address the council regarding an item that's not on the agenda must be a citizen, property owner, or business owner in the city of White House. Comments on such non-agenda items shall be limited to 3 minutes. The council will not comment on the items not on the agenda. However, the council may refer the item to staff for research, resolution, referral, or refer the matter to council as a future agenda item. We have Mr. Cameron Rose. If you could please come up and state your name and address for the record. And it looks like you want to speak on a non-agenda item, which is code enforcement. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, sir. Cameron Rose. I live at 807 Keble, which is in the Nottingham Forest neighborhood. And my wife sent me to find out about parks, and it sounds like that's tomorrow night. But I had a concern that came to my mind as long as I'm here, which is on code enforcement. And this goes to, and I think we might be limited in this area. I don't know the whole background if we have one person covering this or not right now, but this something that would help us in our neighborhood is and things like property maintenance and unauthorized storage and litter. And some of these things have been resolved. It's taken a while, but it's an ongoing issue. Boats, RVs, commercial vehicles parked in the neighborhood roadways, which are significant issues because that neighborhood over there, there's not enough room really to drive. You get vehicles like that parked on both sides of the street, and it's very tight going down the middle. So really, the larger issue is that our properties over there were not designed for the type of occupancies that are now occurring. So we've got these 1,900 square foot homes. They're about 15 feet to the back fence. And now we've got rentals, we've got multiple generation families, we have properties with 4 to 6 vehicles per property. And there's not room for 4 to 6 vehicles per property in that neighborhood. Animals. I think the code is 4 animals per property. Well, when you're that close to your next property, if you have 4 animals, 4 animals, 4 animals, 4 animals, and I've got 12 dogs all within arm's distance, it's a significant issue. A few years ago we had the police come out and they were able to resolve it was less the noise issue as it was the stench issue. It was a significant health problem. But all of these things speak to simply having, whether it's more individuals or more hours for the individual in code enforcement to be able to come and really address those things. I know we've got the website to kind of send those issues into. After that, I don't know what happens to them exactly, and no way of knowing if they're really, if the bridge is really gapped after we send those concerns. And I hate to call it a complaint because they're my neighbors, but they're concerns. I don't want my property values to fall. I know my neighbors don't want their property values to fall. We're well invested in them. But when we've got a neighbor that uses their driveway as a litter storage, and neighbors whose properties are falling apart and the grass is as tall as I am, that's going to make me hard to keep my property value up. And that's important to me, and I know it's important to everyone else. So code enforcement is a rising issue, at least in our neighborhood, and I think maybe particularly with with the significant growth we're going to see with the onslaught of a larger population here, I think it's important that we realistically, in order to maintain what White House is, in order that it not sinks into what North Tyler has become, which originally it was not. We don't want to become that here. So, no disrespect to my friends in North Tyler, but that was not well taken care of. So, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, that is the end of the public forum section. So we're moving on to item G, the consent agenda. There is only one item on the consent agenda for your consideration, and that is the approval of the minutes of the city council meeting for June 27th, 2023. So if there's no corrections or concerns with how the consent agenda is presented, I'll entertain a motion to approve it as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, with that, the consent agenda is approved. And that takes us on to item H, other action items, ordinances, resolutions, and public hearings. Number 1 is discussion of fiscal year 2023-24 budget and tax rate. All right, it's budget season. Let's get into it, Mrs. Black.
Mayor and council, included in your packet for this meeting was an overview, a line item budget for all funds for the fiscal year 2023-2024. We have a statutory deadline to present a proposed budget to you by July 16th, based on our budget calendar and tax rate adoption schedule, so that is provided in your packet. I did provide a budget message or an overview of all of our funds. For the fiscal year 23-24, our overall budget is just over $14 million, which is about $2.8 million over the prior year. The biggest portion of that is the $2 million allocated in the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We received those several years ago, but this budget would allocate those funds as required to be allocated by 2024. So that would meet that requirement and outlines the planned spending for those funds. Particularly in the general fund, our primary source of revenue is property tax. As you can see here, our taxes and the revenue line item are shown to increase. That's both sales tax and property tax. We are still waiting on certified rolls from Smith County. Those are due July 25th. Until then, it is strictly an estimate on what we expect our property tax revenues to be based on the preliminary values that we've received and some very early property tax rate calculations. So we've put a number in there. I will tell you it will change before you adopt the tax rate. Most other revenues remained flat. You can see that we did have some changes in the line item budget for interest and rent based on what we've been collecting. Actually, I think we left it flat, but our actual has been significantly higher because we had a large debt issuance that we are now earning interest on. So we need to be careful and make sure we are falling within our statutory requirements for those items. Here's a look at the historical tax rates. The 2023 is what's proposed. That would be the de minimis rate. And that indicates a reduction to just around 73 cents. Again, that's based on preliminary numbers and would be about a 4-cent decrease in the current property tax rate. And that's using that rate as the estimate of property tax revenue that we show in the line item budget currently. You can see the work that we've done to reduce our debt rate. You can see in 2018 that the total tax rate, the portion allocated towards debt service was just over 53 cents. We reduced that now to right at 30 cents. So we've done a lot of hard work to get that debt rate down. I know when I came here in 2019, I was shocked at how lean we were on the operations side. Getting that debt rate down has given us the availability to really focus on operations and do the things like increasing police compensation that we've done. Adding staff, making sure that we're meeting the needs of our growing community, both on the debt service side and the maintenance and operations side.
Yeah, we almost swapped them. So
Right.
the amount of M&Os, so that's great.
Sure is, yeah.
The general fund expenditures line item is in your packet. They're proposed at 6.2 million, which is a 19% increase over the current fiscal year, mainly due to personnel and increased compensation that we've been discussing for quite some time. And just inflation, our expenditures have gone up quite a bit, but you can see the compensation on the police department, particularly what that does to our overall budget on expenditures.
So that spike in the middle of fire, was that the fire truck?
Probably.
Okay, yeah, where did the fire truck?
That would be about 750,000, so. Utility fund revenues, our utility fund remains primarily flat. If you read my budget message, you noted that I do have some concern over where we stand in the current year. Right now, our expenses exceed revenues by just over $500,000 in the current fiscal year in the utility fund. It's largely due to some well pumps that we had to have replaced due to age on those, which means we're in really good shape for the next year. We started this fiscal year with about 8 months in reserves in our utility fund, so even if I expect we'll make up a significant portion of that gap in July, August, and September. Even if we can't make up the entire gap, our utility fund is still healthy, but I do think it is prudent that we are doing our water and wastewater rate study to make sure that we are charging appropriately for those services. We are in that process right now. Jason has been working on a 10-year capital plan to help them with their forecasting and to take a look at what we need to do going forward. It's always tricky when you have a fund based on a commodity and you're at the whim of the weather and that you don't really know how healthy that fund is going to be until the last 3 months of your fiscal year. At this point in the year, we are almost always have expenditures that exceed revenues because again, our highest generating revenue months are still to come. So we are working on that. I feel like we're still okay. We're not where I'd like us to be. We've done a significant amount of capital improvements on those wells that we're not gonna have to do hopefully for another 7 to 10 years. So that's good news, but it is something that we need to watch and be diligent about as we go forward. And we'll be taking, like I said, a really hard look at it with our water and wastewater rate study. For now, we've left revenues flat because we don't know what those rate changes will be and what those revenue increases may or may not be. So we've left that flat for now. Same largely for expenditures. You can see that spike in water operations where we've had those wells replaced. Everything else remains relatively flat from prior years. We've also included in your packet the other funds, including American Rescue Plan, the EDC, vehicle replacement, and debt. There's no significant changes in there. Assuming that we move forward with the sales tax swap election in November, that likely wouldn't take effect until the 24-25 fiscal year, so those changes aren't reflected here. It should be noted that doing that will decrease the amount of sales tax revenue currently coming to the general fund and increase the sales tax revenue going to the Economic Development Corporation should that election and measure pass. But that's the point, right, is that we're allocating more towards the Economic Development Corporation. Again, we've done a lot of work on debt. When we issued the $10 million COs in 2021, we did about a 30-year projection on what that would do to our tax rate. We have exceeded what the 2028, 2029 projections would be. So with our property tax growth, that's why we're getting so much compression and being able to lower our debt rate so significantly, so quickly. So that's all good news. And so there are a couple of things that we know will need to be changed in this proposed budget. It does include all projects that we have discussed, except the police department copier, because I was going back and forth whether or not to take that out of the current fiscal year or wait till next fiscal year. We're gonna add it to next fiscal year. That's a relatively small expenditure in the grand scheme of things. But all other projects have been included with the addition of an automatic CPR chest compression device for the fire department. That wasn't on the recommended list, but we've got that added. But other than that, staff is happy to answer any questions or take any direction.
I have one very petty thing.
Okay.
I can barely tell the difference between those colors, especially on the right. Can you please just,
Sure.
I'm sorry, I
Get outside the blue
sitting here
range.
like, I'm trying to figure out if I'm looking at it. So.
When do we think that the, utility study is gonna be complete?
I think we'll have recommendations, I'm trying to remember the schedule, Jennifer. November, probably, for implementation, maybe in January.
Okay.
No word on anything in there all. You hadn't heard any progress or anything on it, or?
On the water and wastewater rate study, yeah, I mean, we're working with the consulting team to develop the 10-year capital plan now. We met with them last week to discuss kind of their assumptions and projections and make sure we answered any questions related to our budget that they may have and operations, so.
Boy, it sure costs a lot of money for pumps, doesn't it? You know,
Costs a
wells.
lot of money for everything.
Yeah.
I know, it's just, man, you would think they dig a hole and put a pump on it and you got water.
It's
Not that simple.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
know,
great.
I know.
Well, anybody that hasn't read it, the message that precedes the budget, I mean, the budget, you get it down to the light items and nitty gritty, but that message is one of great encouragement and forethought and planning. And you can tell that each of the different departments are, their wants and more importantly, their needs are expressed, in there. And that was really well written, so appreciate that. Anything else on the budget? All right, going once, going twice. So this is just a discussion, there's nothing to approve at this point?
That's correct. So once we get into, the next council meeting, I think we should have certified values in, maybe that day. From here on out, the information, I know it seems like we've been talking about this and there hasn't been much change over the last couple of months. The meetings going forward, we are on some very strict deadlines and timeframes, and so it'll be either we were on track or we need to make these changes based on the information that we've received, and we will be requiring action, both through, in the form of public hearings and proposed tax rates. So, it will happen very fast from here on out, and then we should be done by August, what do we say, the 15th, 16th? We'll meet the first and third Monday in August, just as a reminder to meet those deadlines, so.
August 15th.
August 1st and 15th.
Oh, so instead of second and fourth
We
Tuesday,
need
we'll
to
be on the
move.
first and third
We need to move to the first and
Tuesday.
third Monday,
Monday.
or
Tuesday.
Tuesdays, okay.
All right. Well, look out
We'll
look
get
out
it.
for those.
First and
Look out for
15th,
those.
whatever that day is.
Alright.
Tuesdays.
Tuesdays.
All right. Nothing else on the budget, then we'll go down to item H2, which is discussion, consideration, and action on police department compensation. So, did you want to provide any overview
I
for
can,
this?
sure.
Yeah, sure.
So Mayor and Council, as you all know, at the last meeting, you all approved updated compensation schedules for our police department. I know there was concern from a council member that they wanted to do more. Just as a reminder, this is what we were at, and the proposed is what we adopted. Staff did take a look. If you were to increase this salary schedule to 60,000, let me back up. Going from the current to proposed indicated about a $380,000 change in compensation. To go from a starting pay of 55 to 60 would be about another $300,000. Because we can't just look at the police department by itself. We have to make sure that we're maintaining organizational equity, that we're maintaining pay that is fair and appropriate across all departments, not just our police department. Given that it would cost about $300,000 to do this increase, and given that we are only at about $150,000 in revenue over expenditures in the proposed general fund budget right now, staff does not recommend moving to $60,000. I think, I know Chief Robeson and I worked very diligently to make sure that we were competitive with neighboring agencies of our size. There are always gonna be agencies paying more than what we can pay. But I do think moving to $55,000 keeps us competitive with neighboring agencies, and that remains our recommendation.
I think we've made
Yeah.
great progress, and it's just something that needs to be assessed, or all departments need to be reassessed, annually.
And we do that every year.
I'm one of the ones that would be in favor. I just wonder how it would affect the rank and file if you just considered beginning pay, bump it from 55 to 60.
That would put you on par with somebody that's been here for 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Discharged.
I
So
know.
they'd spend 4 years making the same amount of money.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
I'm just trying to think, I mean, sometimes it's nice to be the head and not the tail, you know what I mean? You know, we just can't pay them enough money. And I wish that somehow we could, that first year beginning officer, we could pay more. You know, I just wish.
I think we all wish that.
I know,
think every
I know,
agency in the
I know
state
we
wishes
do.
that.
I know we do, I know we do.
Yeah, it's just a tough balance
I
of
know.
doing that, and making sure we're still being fiscally responsible.
And I think maybe next year we can. I mean, I think we should consider salaries at every position, each year. We have a lot of benefits that come out of being in the city of White House, and those were listed in the packet. Anybody that's got the packet can see that. But for some police officers, money doesn't matter anyway. White House doesn't have or need a SWAT team. We don't have a drug enforcement agency. We don't have a sex crimes division.
True.
The things that drive people into this position, and that extra $5,000 might make them hold on for a couple of years, and then they go somewhere else. And that's what I like about how they stacked it kind of towards the bottom. Once you get somebody in here for a few years and they have that institutional knowledge, it costs a lot more money to lose those people than it does to, bring somebody on and onboard them. So with what they had to work with, it feels like a pretty good balance.
I know, I agree. I just don't think we can pay them enough. Just my honest feelings, you know. But we have made good strides, so. I mean, and I applaud the chief with the take-home car stuff and all that. That's a really good step forward, and extra little enticement and benefit, so. Anything we can do to try to help your situation, and, because if we help your situation, you're helping our city, so. It's just if you're aware of what's going on around the country, I think we're making good positive strides,
Just to note, Smith County's bottom starting pay is $54,873.
Okay. What, for county? Okay.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and I think it's a testament to Paul and his team of the type of officer that you have to hire in White House. You have to hire somebody that wants to be a community policeman, not somebody that wants to go in and bust up rings and, tackle people. It's more of a, how do you build policing in the community to make people want to approach their officers and report things. I'm not the only one, but I can't leave a door open in my driveway for more than an hour without my neighbor calling and, letting me know. And some people don't like that. It's nosy neighbors, right? But it's the same thing that deters people from doing a lot of things here, so.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion on this? Hearing none, let's go to item H3, discussion on renaming a street in honor of veterans. All right, this came up, this was something that, future agenda items, this was something that Councilman Lowe, brought up as he wanted to discuss, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Councilman Lowe.
Well, I think again, it's just another way to honor those who have served, do serve, will serve, all the above. And I picked out, I think, the ideal street. That is Railroad Avenue. Convert it to Veterans Avenue. I think there's a total of 11 mailboxes that would be impeded. Not a whole lot of intrusion upon the current residents. A lot of the space on Railroad Avenue right now is public service, City of White House. But, again, it would be a small footprint that would be impeded. Again, it would have good visibility right here, right on the main street. You know, you can see veterans up there. It's very common for a lot of cities to have this kind of honor. Dallas, Marshall, Texas, Kemp, Pearland, Woodville. So again, not only to honor the fallen, the present, but all the fallen, the present, and the past service people. And I don't know how to go about doing it. That's all I know is that's one thing that I would greatly, really think it'd be good for the city. Railroad Avenue has served well. There's no railroad right now. Next year there could be, but right now we don't have anything. So I think it'd be probably a good candidate to be a change for a name.
In February, there were a lot of citizens that wanted to name a street after Patrick Mahomes. That's what you're gonna come against if you rename a street, is everybody's gonna want their streets renamed. That's the biggest issue that I see is.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, but Railroad Avenue is not named after a person. It's named after a object or a piece of mechanical equipment. I know what you're saying. I mean, I agree, yeah, but I still think it'd be a good thing. To further honor good visibility, small footprint, not impeding upon many people, and it's a very common thing for a city to have a street named after veterans, and a good way to further honor our fallen and who's given everything for us.
Just so I understand, if we did decide to rename a street, what all would that entail? Is it just as easy as, there's a lot that goes into that, isn't there?
Susan, do you wanna talk about your process, and then we'll talk about it from the process for the side of the homeowner?
Sure. I would have to notify every utility, every Smith County. There's several. There's like 8 different agencies I would have to notify that we've changed those, including all of the homeowners. And the homeowners will have to change all of their utility accounts, all of their banking accounts, all of their deliveries,
Mortgage.
their titles to their homes will have to be changed.
So with that being said, would it make more sense if we did do something, have like a stretch of a road that's like a memorial? You see that in different cities, like just
Not
100 yards.
rename the entire street, just make it like a,
In
Just
honor,
have a memorial highway type thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's in honor of a person.
Or
Right.
something
Right.
under our control, like maybe a park or something, like a strip.
I mean, the
park.
ideal thing, I think, would be 346 to have a couple of markers in honor of the military fallen and whatever, but that is an exception, and a possible alternative.
You can check into tech stops requirements for those types of
The deal is, ain't nothing easy. Everything's difficult. Everything is. We don't wanna make things more difficult, but, I just have a strong feeling with that. But anyway, that would be a good, nice alternative. And hey, maybe next year we can look at it. But right now, it'd be nice to have a sign in memorial to those, because we got a wonderful Veterans Memorial. Why not have a little?
Yeah, if we're not technically like renaming the street, then maybe we can get into things like that driveway that goes up next to the Veterans Memorial, because that's not a formal street, it's a drive.
I thought about that, Mayor. I did.
Nobody would have to change their mortgage or,
Yeah.
but that's not a street, so it's not a city street.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a formal street, but I think as far as visibility, Railroad's great for that memorial signage to have it up there and people drive down, and that's the street that we control, 346, we'd have to go through
all the,
Yeah, through text dot, and you found they're picky on where their signs go. You tried to move a couple of their signs.
I dare not go there.
Yeah.
I learned that 2 years ago.
So I think that's something that we could move forward with and be in complete control of it as a city and not impact any of the
It makes
homeowners.
sense to do that because it's with the Veterans Memorial, and so you're just encompassing what's already there.
Question. Ms. Leslie, would it be a large ordeal to have a nice size sign in honor of veterans? Is that a,
I mean, it depends on where you wanna put it.
probably at the entrance, and at the entrance also at Hagan, coming off of Hagan?
Oh, this on railroads.
Oh, on a railroad.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to make sure we're outside of TxDOT's right of way at Railroad and 346.
We own property on the right side.
Yeah.
That's the property where
That's right.
the senior center is. We own that. On the other side, you're talking about somebody's yard.
Yeah.
Basically.
On the other side coming over,
Yeah,
Then
coming.
taking it.
Yeah.
but you still got easement rights and signage rights to,
Yeah, but I mean, we wanna be
I know,
respectful of property owners there, so, yeah, we can look at it.
okay.
So just designating the roadway, not renaming the roadway?
Yeah,
Yeah, in honor of.
Okay,
Yeah.
maybe the next year we can rename it, you know. It's a good step forward
alright.
to further honor those. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on that? All right, hearing none, that takes us to item H4, update on fiber installation contractors. Mrs. Black.
Mayor and council, not just a whole lot to share, but I'll share a couple of things. We did reach out to Frontier to see what their estimated timeline was on coming back into town. As you all remember, they did start construction and then left town. They have indicated they plan to be back sometime in 2024 is their new timeline. I do think I can share that we do have another fiber contractor who has received permits from TxDOT to install fiber along Highway 110, and they have indicated early plans to serve residential and businesses within our community, and that is Vexus Fiber, so they're actively pursuing construction down 110 at this point. So, in Vexus, I think this question came up in regards to notifying our residents and businesses of construction in their area. Vexus, if you saw the work that they did in Tyler, they were very good about putting their signs out. They've already sent me sample construction letters that they provide to property owners 2 weeks prior to construction beginning. So I do feel like they are probably a little bit more diligent in making sure homeowners are notified of construction in their area. So when we get to that point, hopefully that will be the case.
Any further comments on this?
Nope.
It's just very disappointing,
It is.
you know.
Frontier came in and sold a lot of high expectations and got everybody excited and backed off of it. So I'd hope that any other community locally that they're making those promises to, there's some kind of referral thing, or I mean, I don't know. I'm just.
I'll tell you what,
It's crazy.
I learned a lot.
I
That you
bet,
can go
yeah.
dig up people's yards, cause problems, not finish their job, say you're coming back in a year, and now we have someone new coming, and it's like, at some point, we're all gonna be just frustrated. And
Well-
but we're not.
If
I
it
was
didn't,
really excited.
oh, I was too, Zach. If it wasn't so doggone expensive, we sure can't afford it, but it'd be nice. I mean, you got trash, you got sewage, you got electric, you got all these utilities, and it's getting to the point that internet is almost gotta have. You know, I mean, I wish we could afford our own city-owned internet, but I don't think we're there at all.
We
but-
can't legally.
I know, we just can't, no. Some cities do, have, you know, so, but no.
Yeah, we're pretty far removed. We don't have an IT department. I mean, step one, you have an IT department, and then you grow that IT department to where it could take on the overhead of managing as an ISP. But we already have broadband here. We're just trying to get competition so that our prices are fair. And that started happening, even with the promise of something coming that happened, and I hope that continues forward.
Is there any hope of Vexus, right, Vexus, coming and appearing before us? And, I mean, it looks pretty good. I mean, promising, there's hope, right? Okay, I just wanna hear hope. Cause,
Yeah, I mean, they do have proprietary information and don't like to share just a whole lot
I
of
know.
what their plans are.
Yeah.
So in
Not
a
in
public
open-
setting,
yeah,
yeah,
in
I
open.
mean, they're sharing that with us.
and we can't control private enterprise. We can't grab them, you know, and make them, you know, but boy, I'm amazed. Absolutely, and I agree with Zach. I learned a lot.
Yeah, and unlike the other provider, there's people that are in the higher up of Vexus that live here, and they've
True.
been wanting this for a long time, and it's just finally there.
True.
So I have a feeling that they're gonna be highly motivated, and you'll see them in Brookshires. So it's
Right.
gonna be a little bit different, I hope.
True. Very true.
Well, there we go. Anything else?
No.
Moving on to item H5, consider future agenda items. Is there anything from council?
Should we add for a future agenda item, or could Chief talk to us now about, cause I'm interested in some of the code enforcement issues that the citizen talked about, like what, I don't know, what happens if I call the police and say, my neighbor's yard is 6 feet tall, like, I don't know,
Let us prepare something.
thank you.
Yeah, be a good public service announcement of our process.
And I totally know about those boats in the street and you can't get by, and like I'm dropping kids off in neighborhoods, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, okay, so, yeah, just,
It's a matter to, again, White House isn't 3,000 people anymore. And I do know that, you know, it comes with a price. Everything has a price. But I agree, Council Lady,
I just like the information, yeah, cause
I
I
do.
really don't know.
I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, when is enough? I mean, can you have 14 motorhomes on your property? I don't know.
That
But-
sounds like a challenge.
Anyway, but, so, maybe it's time.
Okay, so I'd like to, thank you, Leslie.
Yeah. Are there any pending project updates that we can get? I know there was a grant application for sidewalks on Acrotap.
And we do have the study working on all the,
Franchise
fees. And
But I think
that's
that
probably
was-
such a tedious, like.
That
thing,
was like a year, I think they gave us a year out.
Okay, so we're
for-
still at the very beginning then, okay.
We still, okay, this is something I want, and that is, I want a agenda item on Hagan Road. We need the center dividing lines, we need to get it done. Chief, is it a hazard, the situation right now on Hagan without any center dividing lines?
So we've got a quote on that, we're actively working.
Okay,
on it. It just
okay.
takes a minute. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't, can you pass legally pass without dividing lines? I pray.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that could be like a broad agenda item for updates on
Okay.
maybe projects and any types of grants that are just interesting stuff in the
One
works.
more.
Yeah.
I promise this is it. Library. I love the library, and didn't know if we're responsible for maintenance of that facility. They've got, and I've got a picture, guys, to show you. You know, they've got a situation in the back that is absolutely almost rat infested. That could be corrected. You know, you got a tree that needs to be cut down. It's just a mess. And the second thing of it is they got a depression in the pavement in the front, and every time it rains, it's like a bathtub full of water. And just wondered if we're responsible for that kind of stuff. Maybe we're not. And I appreciate it. It's just they do a good job, you know, for us.
Any other agenda items for consideration? Of course, there'll be budget.
Why social media?
We need to update so we have a social media policy for our employees, but we need to update our forward-facing social media.
we'll understand more during the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I don't wanna get too far
Oh, you don't have
on
to. You
something
don't
that's
have to.
not on the agenda, but, we just wanna make sure that we are following our legal counsel's advice on what a limited public forum on social media means and how we handle comments that are spam or.
And we're not allowed to
inappropriate
comment
or-
to people that comment things that are tacky.
So,
You're thinking that might change after that meeting?
I'm hoping.
but right now, because we don't have a social media policy, we have no way to moderate things that are spam or scams or any of those types of things in
Yeah.
our social media policy. And so we need to bring that before you so you can approve it, amend it, change it, however it needs to look, and then get those posted so that we can do a better job of making sure that what is posted is appropriate and,
Yeah, we wanna
On
make sure
topic.
we're not a platform for negative misinformation.
Sure.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay.
All right, anything else? All right. Hearing none, we'll move down to item I, executive session, for which we have none, so we won't be reconvening as in J. So on to K, consider a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion,
Second.
second. Any opposition, any business to consider, any new business, old business, table business? Hearing none. Time is 6:43 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Got some paperwork here.
Thank you.